Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And it's good to be back on the Budget Committee after an 8-year hiatus and living back in the real world and working at creating jobs and watching this American economy under two different presidents. You know, I left in 2017, and so I was back in the private sector under President Trump, and I was also in the private sector under President Obama. And you know, obviously, COVID was a natural, needed a national response to a very serious problem. But the effects that government created out of that pandemic are having long-term effects on us today. And you know, there's can be a lot of finger pointing. You know, as Mr. Obernolte was commenting about tackling the problems, that's what needs to happen today. Instead of finger pointing, let's point at the problem and let's have an honest discussion about what's really happening here and what has happened. Plenty of mistakes in the past. You know, in 1980, our national debt was $1 trillion. Since George Washington, our founding father, since the creation of this country, all the way until 1980 when Ronald Reagan took the White House, we accumulated $1 trillion of debt. 2010, we had $9 trillion. 2018, $18 trillion. Today, $36 trillion. We've been doubling debt at such a fast pace, it's just unsustainable. And we have to have an honest discussion amongst ourselves right here. We got to fix this. And, you know, I hear folks on the other side of the aisle talking about egg prices. Well, I come from a family farm in Northeast Indiana where we know a little bit about farming. And what government has done over the past 3 years has driven up the price of those eggs, whether it's regulations, whether it's spending money into an economy where people aren't then turning around and having the opportunity to work and to be productive. We need production in this country because that's going to help make the demand. We can buy the goods and services that we need. People are working harder today for less. And, you know, we say, well, if this is going to happen on Election Day. We all know this takes a little bit of time to turn this economy around. And let's be just honest with each other that there is optimism. There is hope. The American people are finally glad that somebody's fighting for them. You know, I'm encouraged by what the DOGE team is doing. We've needed this to happen with the federal government for a long time. Our federal government has needed a colonoscopy and somebody to dive deep and look and see what the problems are and where the spending is at and where the waste is at. I'm glad to hear folks say, you know what, we're all against waste, fraud, and abuse. Well, let's identify it and let's decide that there is plenty of waste, fraud, and abuse that can be eliminated so that way it goes to the American people. You know, they talk about, well, $20 million here or $5 million here. You know, that's small. But you know what that $20 million could do back in Bluffton, Indiana, for a community? $20 million would have a huge impact in Indiana in a small community rather than going to a Sesame Seed program in Iraq. We got to think about our folks rather than thinking about people around the world. If we're not healthy, we can't be a generous nation. We're borrowing money to buy food rather than investing in our future and infrastructure. That's what's happening. Credit card debt is at an all-time high. That means people they don't have the income to go buy the goods and services that they need, and they're putting it on credit cards. We've got to make sure this economy is growing and it's good for every American. That's what this budget does. It holds the government back and allows the American people to flourish and move ahead and be successful and prosperous. So, Mr. Chairman, thank you for your work on this. I know this committee has worked very hard to find that balance because we don't want to see Americans hurt because of government's irresponsible actions. But at the same time, we have got to get this government spending under control. And I am proud to support the efforts today. So I yield back.